If you think you can be more, this is the place for you. If you think you can do more for your community, for your family, for your nation, this is the place for you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leaders World. And we are here to bring you cutting edge information that will help you transform your life, transform your business, transform your networks and your relationships, and transform everything around you. With us today to talk on Here You Grow Again, Reaching Your Potential is Michelle. Who is Michelle? Michelle is owner of Grow by One, a company committed to helping clients grow by one intentional step every single day in order to surpass your present goals. And she has experienced extensively for more than 20 years in the field of education. She's highly requested around the United States of America, and she has clients outside of the US as well. She's finishing her PhD in education, and she's focusing on the influence of coaching on classroom quality. My educators, are you all there? Michelle is in the house. I'm excited. Yes, that's how I get when I get excited. Okay. So Michelle is married and she's enjoying life with her husband, Josh, of 18 years, and her three teenagers, Josiah, Anna, and Eliana, with us to talk on Here You Grow Again, Reaching Your Potential, Part 2 is Michelle. Michelle, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Michelle, we're here to talk about growth. You just told me that you've done, well, our main inspiration is going to be coming from this book by John Maxwell, which is the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I have done many masterminds using this book, and I just had a conversation with you, and you said, "Ooh, how many times have you done master classes with this book?"
Probably around 36 now. It's my favorite. Yeah.
Isn't that something? and you have this podcast. By the end of this program, we are going to put the links to the podcast. You can hear Michelle every day. Isn't that something?
Every day.
Nice. You can hear Michelle every day. Michelle, when you think about growth, what comes to your mind?
It's interesting because my business name, Grow by One, that's what we do, but that's also who we are. Growth is so important. So the essence of growth is really understanding where am I at right now? Where do I want to be? And you can think about where do I want to be at the end of this broadcast or the end of the day or the end of the year, whatever. And then asking yourself.
Wait. So listen, our viewers, when you're dealing with people who have an education background, you have teachers.
Yes.
And you want to take down notes. I'm taking down notes. Michelle just said something so powerful. The essence of growth is about analyzing where you are right now and where you want to go next. And she just said something about after this broadcast.
Yes.
You might as well just get into your next level. Go ahead, Michelle. I just loved it.
There's no need to wait. There's no need to wait for growth. Growth happens. Change happens all the time. Intentional growth, you got to be a little bit more, intentional about it. But change happens, things can fall apart and change very quickly. Don't we know that? I have 3 children. I know that. But as far as intentional growth, you do have to just be keyed in on it. So growing is knowing where you're at, where you want to go, and then taking one step, just one. What is the next step that you have to do? The one thing I know about people is that we as humans, we try to make things way more difficult than it needs to be. And if we can just simplify it and say, how can I grow by one step today? That's it, just one.
Wait, Michelle, you just said something about change happening all the time. Is it possible that change might be happening and growth is not happening?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, so my background in education is within early childhood education, and I'll just use a kid example because it's so easy to understand. And if you're a parent, you'll understand this. If you let your 2 kids out to play and they're in the toy box and they're playing around, guess what? By the end of the day, you're going to have a very big change in that playroom, but it's not going to be growth.
Oh, okay. So
It's
stuff might actually be happening around us and we are busy with activity.
yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that we are growing. So how can a person know that they are really growing, Michelle?
Well, and that's where the magic comes in, where you really need to understand what is it that you want and where are you at right now. So I'll give you a great example right here on my desk. This is my journal that I use every single day. It's about the size of my cell phone and very simple, but I write down, this is the stuff that I'm going to do today. So, for example, today I had my study time, my podcast, this interview, right? Some other things with the kids. And then I wrote down, what do I want to focus during those times? And so, for example, when I took my walk this afternoon, I actually just put enjoy. That was my focus. And then when I came back from my walk, I said, okay, how did I do? Did I enjoy that? And there was mostly, I enjoyed it. There was a couple times where I didn't so much. And I realized I
So
was,
for you at that moment,
yeah,
growth was enjoying that walk.
correct.
Oh, wow.
Because
So, yeah.
doer, I'm a get it done kind of person. I'm an achiever. You tell me the rules and I can exceed those. I mean, my resume, look at that. You'll know that. But for me, growth is slowing down right now. Growth is going more into the being instead of the doing place. That's growth for me. Now, for somebody
Wow.
else, it would be getting stuff done. But for me, I'm coming back around and I got to take a little bit of rest. And when I'm outside, I haven't really been an outside person, I'll be honest with you, in my life. And that's something that I'm trying to enjoy.
So the listeners, our audiences, if somebody's wondering right now, how do I determine the areas that I really need growth in?
Yeah.
I like what you said. I like what you said, that you are like a go-getter and you are a doing person. But for you right now, it's just slowing down and growing from within,
Right.
focusing on that. So how do we determine what areas of growth we should be focusing on? Is there like a formula? Is there like a pattern?
I tend to think about several different areas. So faith is important to me. If that's not your thing, just cross it off the list. Faith, family, finances, fun, career development, but also personal development. So for me, going out and enjoying a walk, that is personal development. It's also a bit of a spiritual kind of faith development for me as well. And so you come up with, these are the things, the areas in my life that I know I want to improve on. And then you just think about, what's going well, what's maybe not going so well, and how can I just grow? So for example, physical, I had hip surgery about a year ago, and it was very intense. And I am like this close to finally walking the 4 miles that I was doing before I was injured. So I'm really excited. And so every day, literally, there are times when I get up to that point where I'm like, okay, today's going to be the day. And I realize, I don't have it in me to go that extra half a mile, but could I take 3 more steps on my journey than I did?
Right.
And if I come home and say I went further today than I did yesterday, that's all good.
So Michelle, we have audiences that take notes sometimes. Do you want to just repeat those areas where they can focus and like try to hone in on their growth if they wanted to just make that one step after this broadcast?
Sure. I'll tell you the areas. I actually I write them down every day. So we have faith, fitness, finance.
If you're watching and you can put that in the chat to help the rest of our listeners, that would be a great thing.
Yeah, faith,
finance, fitness.
Yep, finance, family. That's a big one. If you have this sheet says love interest, but for me that would be my husband. So you could put that in there as well, because that's different, than family. So I've got my 3 teenagers and then my husband. So it needs to be a different focus for those. Then personal development. So what are you studying, right? So in addition to all the other things, what else are you studying? Business, that's a big one. I don't care if it's business, like you're running your own business, or maybe you have a job and you're working for somebody else. That's included in that as well. And the one that I am really focusing on right now is fun. How can you have more fun and relaxation? Because I realized in my doing season of life, that I was getting really stressed, and that's not good for me, and that's not good for the people that I serve.
Right, right.
So I'm focusing on the fun because I know I'm really good at the things that I do. But when I have fun, especially doing the things that I love to do, everybody benefits from that.
Awesome, awesome. So if you were listening, I could just do a recap for you. That was faith, finance, family, fitness, love interest, personal development, business, fun, and relaxation. So
Yeah.
what area do you think that you might need to just put in that one little step after this broadcast?
Right.
You can just put it in the chat. If you're listening to us, you're watching. Oh, thank you so much, Ralph. You can just put that in the chat and say, my area is going to be this area. My area is going to be this area. Remember, this is meant to move you forward in life. We are not
step. One
step. So if you can tell us that one step today, that would be awesome. And growth is the only evidence that there is life.
Correct.
How would we know that we are growing, Michelle?
Well, you have to measure it in some way. So, again, we as humans, we try to make it really, really complex. It does not have to be complex. Keep it simple. So in my little journal here, when I took my walk and I said I wanted to enjoy it, I realized that I enjoyed about 80% of it. And so I'm a big fan of doing a 1 to 10 rating, 1 being low, 10 being high, where are you at? And so today I would put an 8 on that. And then right after that, I always ask myself, well, what would make that number go higher? And I realized, actually, I had a sock issue today on my walk. I wore the wrong socks. They weren't my blister reducing socks. So I didn't enjoy it as much. And so tomorrow when I take my walk, the simple change is going to be put on a different pair of socks.
So you had a pause.
Yes.
At the end of whatever you were doing to grow, and you had an evaluation, and it was on a scale of 1 to 10, and you saw that you were on an 8, and you were like, okay, why didn't I have the 10? And you were able to know what made you not to have the 10.
Yes.
Listen. Are you growing? Okay, let me just talk to you. Are you growing, guys? Are you growing? Are you evaluating? Michelle just told us you have to have a way to measure it. So are you measuring your growth? How do you know you're growing if you're not measuring it? How do you know what you need to do next to hit that 10% if you're not measuring it? Michelle, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was. So this process of writing it down and evaluating after each one of my activities for the day, you can wait till the end of the day if you want to kind of evaluate, or you can do it right away. When I was pre-COVID, when I was somewhere other than in this chair doing my work, I was doing a lot of traveling. And so what I would do when I got in the car before I went to the next place, I would sit and take 30 seconds and ask myself, what's my rating? What could I do better next time? And then I would go on to the next thing. This takes maybe 5 minutes total the whole entire day. I have a whole book here that shows
Wait, if it takes 5 minutes, that's a lot of time, Michelle. Do you think it's worth it to just stop and do all of that?
5 minutes is nothing.
Tell us about that.
So when you sit down for your day, you already know what's in your schedule. So you write that down, and then you just take a few seconds for each one of those. What do I need to work on? Is it a skill I'm working on? Is it, getting to know a new person? Is it asking better questions? What is it that you want to do? And then write it down. And then after the thing, you take another minute and you say, how did that go? Oh, okay, I'll put my number down. It does not have to be a whole dissertation or anything like that. It's literally just 5 minutes out of your whole entire day. And the magic really comes when you do this consistently. Over and over again, because I'm to the point now actually where I probably don't even need this book. It's in me. I just do that naturally. So the magic is really in doing it over and over again.
The magic is in doing it over and over again, but maybe at the start when you just begin, you need those 5 minutes. But after that, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes. And Michelle is saying sometimes she doesn't really need her book because it's already in her. So what do you need to begin to evaluate consistently so you can actually measure your growth in that area and be sure that you're hitting your goals? so important. Michelle, you talked
Really
about,
interesting about this is that there are some days when you get to the end of the day, and let's just face it, life showed up. You did the best you could, but your numbers are not that great.
right,
You know,
right,
and so you can look at that page and go, oh man, I really kind of messed this day up. Or you could look at the whole book and say, there's evidence here of how awesome I am.
yes,
Yeah.
yay. So you can look back and have all those evidences of how awesome you've been, even though you messed up today, people. This is
Yes.
really good. This is really
Growth
good.
doesn't, as much as we want to grow by one, it's not like we're growing by one up the steps. Let's get real here. If you're working on something, like I was talking to a coaching client the other day, and she's working on some eating habits, and she's been doing wonderful. And then something happened with her husband. He ended up going into the hospital, and she, had some issues. And she's like, oh my gosh, she was really getting on herself about going back to some of those eating habits. And I said, well, you've never thought about a different option when you were in a hospital before. You've never had a different option. And so you couldn't choose a different option. And so you're expecting yourself to grow, but you can't grow if you don't have that as an option in your thinking.
Right,
and so now she's more aware of the situation, and she says, oh, so if this happens again, I can do this and this and this.
You are talking about awareness. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, I want you to just put in the chat for me, please, hashtag grow one step. Hashtag grow one step. If you're watching us anywhere, let us know where you're watching from. Put in the chat hashtag grow one step, and then we'll be right back to talk about that awareness, which is so important.
Yeah.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives, one leader at a time.
So I'm here with Michelle, and she is throwing pearls all over the page. I'm like, okay, if I were to write, which one am I writing? Which one am I not writing? It's a good thing. This broadcast will always be here for you to come back to it. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for adding value as you type in the chat all what we are talking here. Michelle, you talked about awareness, and we know that in personal development, one of the areas that we want to focus on is self-awareness and that level of emotional intelligence that helps us to grow in our personal development. And you talked about awareness. Do you want to just throw more light into that?
Oh, sure. Oh my gosh. Awareness. I could talk about this for weeks, to tell you the truth. So the one thing I think about is that choice is a function of awareness. So right, choice is a function of awareness.
Okay.
If you are not aware of a choice, you cannot make that choice. So there are many times when we're dealing with somebody, and this is maybe the best way to say it, but maybe you're dealing with a difficult coworker or a difficult boss or a difficult friend or family member. And let's face it, they as all humans are trying to do, they're trying to do their very best with what they have and what they know. And sometimes they just don't have what you have, and they don't know what you know. All you got to do is spend a little bit of time on Facebook to understand that, okay? Go into social media world, you'll realize not everybody knows the things that you know. But let's say for myself, now, you could look at my resume and my intro and my bio and all that, and you could say, oh my gosh, she's, really put together. But you also don't know my background, my history. And in the briefest of ways, I've come from a really kind of harsh start in life.
We all have a journey, Michelle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I asked pretty early on in my journey for wisdom.
Yes.
And that's really where I got hooked on the growth.
Wait. You just said, I need wisdom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Ask for it.
And that has influenced so much about what you do right now and who you are right now.
By rights, if you were to look at what has happened in the first, 20 years of my life, I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't be alive. I should not be doing the things that I'm doing. There's a lot of evidence for that.
Wow.
I'm a firm believer that if you keep asking for wisdom, now, sure, wisdom has to be earned. It can't be learned. You have to go through things. And so if you're not willing to be reflective on your growth journey, you might learn some facts, but you're not going to be earning the wisdom.
Tell us about experience being the best teacher, Michelle. Is it really true?
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. Listen, I've got almost 5 degrees at this point. Yeah, you can go and learn a lot of things, but I'll tell you this.
Michelle, John tells us all the time, evaluated experience.
Yes.
Is what makes the whole difference, because some people go through so many experiences, but they really don't come out with something beneficial for themselves. So John,
one of the things
is evaluated experience.
Yeah, you had mentioned the emotional intelligence and awareness part. So one of the things that I learned probably about 15 years ago was that I didn't really have any emotional intelligence. Just because of my background, that was something I really needed to learn. And over the years, I've learned things like, okay, you can, I do what I call an interaction debrief. So maybe you had this wonky interaction with, I'm just going to use my husband just because it's an easy example. Things didn't go as you wanted it to go. And so afterwards, I step back and I evaluate the situation, but I don't go into judging him or me or anything like that. I just kind of replay it in my mind and I say, okay, where were the options for me to make a different choice? Right. And if I could, what would I have liked to do there?
So how did you now fill your bank of options? How did you do that?
So you can't do that in the moment, because in the moment you're kind of, it's reflex, you're just doing, but if you take that step back and you say, okay, what else could I have done? Or is maybe I should not have done something or should not have said something. And then asking, maybe some friends or some, a mastermind group is a really good group. You can come in, you can say, oh my gosh, this happened. Help me see this from a different perspective.
And you can ask me, you can ask Michelle about the mastermind groups because we run them all the time. Listen, we have tools that could help. All right. All right. Go ahead. So Michelle, I was thinking, you talked about, not like judging. Some people, when they hear about self-awareness and emotional intelligence, something kicks in within them, and maybe that inner judge comes up, and they turn it from self-awareness to self-judgment. Like, can you like help us to position self-awareness and self-judgment? Are they the same thing? How can we handle this and navigate in a healthy way?
So they are not the same thing. So the key here is you want to ask yourself, what are you feeling in that moment? So self-judgment will always come with feelings of blame, shame, and guilt. They will always make you feel bad and stuck. You don't want that. Self-awareness usually comes with kindness, compassion, an understanding for yourself, and that takes a lot of work because we're not typically taught that as children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us the place of curiosity and studying and being observant in all of this.
Yeah. And being open and willing. That's really important.
Okay.
So one of my statements I say every morning is I'm open and willing to whatever crazy comes my way today. And by that, I mean, there is going to be something that tries to rock me from my foundation every day, because that's how we learn and grow. So there's going to be some uncertainty. There's going to be some discomfort. There's going to be some somewhere along your day, you're going to be in an unfamiliar place. Right? It could be a conversation that feels weird, or it could be you're trying to do something and you don't have the resources. And that's when you want to say, it's okay. It's okay to have those. And those are actually really good.
So Michelle, John says something. He says, if we are growing, we'll always be out of our comfort zone. And you just talked about discomfort. And wait, are you saying that it's okay for us not to be okay? Like,
yes.
Through stuff, is that okay? As far as growth in our businesses, in our personal lives?
Yes, and you need a certain level of discomfort in order to grow. That's the disequilibrium that causes us to want to continue on. I can tell you about a few theories of learning if you'd like, as far as that goes, but we won't go into that today. But in essence, what's happening is that it's I love the law of the rubber band, that, you know, growth happens when you stretch and then you come back, and you stretch and you come back. We don't want 100% out of our comfort zone. We want to grow, and then we want to kind of come back a little bit, and then grow and kind of come back a little bit. It's kind of like, I look at it as a slinky. So a slinky, if you know that it's the metal that's all coiled around toy, you can, you know, pull it apart and everything. If you put it on the stairs and you give it a little bit of a shove, it'll go down the steps and down the steps and down the steps. So it's in constant movement, but
Right.
it can't move forever. It's got to stop at some point.
Right.
When it stops, it finds itself in a different place. It's at the bottom of the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It has traveled, but it comes back to what it was before. This is kind of like when we talk about values, like your values, they might adjust a little bit over time, but they're not going to be wildly different. You just might show up in a different environment with the same values that you had before.
So while I was researching for this broadcast, I came across this statement by General Norman Schwarzkopf, who was the United States Army general. And he said that 99% of leadership failure is in the area of character. You just talked about values, and that brought me to that research, you know, character, values. You know, sometimes people have created conversations on character and values to religion.
Mm-hmm.
But we're discovering that. Tell us about that, Michelle.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I'll talk about this one character principle that I wish everybody had, and that's the ability. It's a character, value, and a skill all in one, and maybe a mindset. Gratitude. Okay. You do not have religion to be a grateful person. You don't have to have that. Okay. Anybody can be grateful. Or forgiveness. That's another one too. You don't have to have religion to have forgiveness. I have been, working with different people. Like I was working with a friend of mine. He's a CEO. He's got 5,000 employees under him.
Oh, wow.
As we got under, a lot of different mindset stuff, the thing that came out was he lacked gratitude and forgiveness. And thankfully, because of our relationship, I could kind of step in and just say, hey, man, I can tell you all kinds of things about how to change your business, but that's not going to work, because the ultimate, I guess the problem is really your lack of gratitude and forgiveness. And I could show him this is how it's showing up over and over and over again. And he's like, yeah,
it was showing up in his business, and maybe it was affecting like stuff around him.
Oh yeah, he was making business decisions on who to hire and fire based on his bitterness. And that was helping, right? And so he was having significant staffing issues. He was losing leaders on his team left and right. And he's like, well, I'll pay you all this money, but you're going to come in and teach us on leadership or strategic planning. And I said,
this makes me remember how John said that he was asked to write a book on ethics, business ethics. Yeah. And he said, wait, I can't write that kind of book. And the publishers asked him, why?
Yeah.
Why can't you write that kind of book? He said, because there is nothing like business ethics. It's ethics.
Exactly.
Either it's there or it's not there, because there's nothing like business ethics.
If it's not in you, it will show up in some way. And so as we worked with him on the gratitude and the forgiveness, things started to change in his business. So oftentimes we think that there's the effect, the outcome, the result that we're seeing is the problem. It's not. It's the cause that's inside us. And typically it has nothing to do with these strategies or solutions.
Wait, Bill. That is so good. Yeah. Can you just say it again? Like, what do you mean?
So, as much as I love books, listen, I've got hundreds. As much as I love learning, I've got almost 5 degrees. As much as I love all of that, I will tell you this, that the more learning I get really comes from inside me. It comes from this book. from
stopping
evaluating
and
myself.
reflecting and
Exactly.
evaluating your growth and measuring it and asking yourself, what little area do I need to step up again for today?
Yeah, that's
Wow.
it. That is your learning. So,
But would you say that your much learning has helped you to know the options that you have, so you know how to better assess yourself and
yeah.
what you actually need?
Absolutely. So there's a book on my shelf that talks about boundaries. I was just talking with two of my teenagers about boundaries before I got on the call.
Okay.
They wanted me to continue watching a show with them. They said, we have 10 minutes left. I said, I've got something to do. And they're like, why are you doing this to us? You know? And I said, this is nothing I'm doing to you. This is called boundaries. And so
Michelle, I want to tell you, I always read your posts about your children.
oh my gosh, they give me a lot of material. That's for sure.
I know, right? A lot of content from the kids every day.
But even that shows a level of reflection, because if you're going to get on and you're going to share a funny post about the kids that are happening, you have to be keyed in on what's happening in your life in order to put a post out like that. So really,
Right.
are you checking in?
Good. So are you telling us that there is a correlation between growth on the inside
Yes.
and growth in your business, in your family, in your networks, in your experiences with other people?
Absolutely. One thing I found for myself is that when I feel like things are a little bit out of control, and not like I'm stepping out of my comfort zone control, but out of control as in like, whoa, things are kind of falling apart right now. I don't know what's happening, but something is not right. And this happens maybe 2-3 times a year.
Right.
I know right then, as soon as I'm aware of that, I look at my schedule and I cancel everything for 3 days.
Wow.
Because I know that I am out of balance. I'm out of harmony with who I am. And I'm going to need a few days to kind of get back to that. And when I rest, when I recover, when I have some study time, and usually those 3 days are very rich in study time for me.
Yes.
That I'm
currently I just called my school. I'm doing a PhD as well, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I just called my school and I said, okay, I'm not taking any courses. When I'm not taking any courses next when I'm done with this, I need the next 8 weeks.
Yes.
Because I need to come back in harmony, in sync with who I really am, because it's like taking all of my life. I'm like, oops, I need to put a pause right here. So that's finding that balance, which is really, really important in everything that we do. One of John's quotes is, if you're always at the head of the class, then you are in the wrong class. I was like, what? Don't we all want to be head in the class?
No.
Tell us about that, Michelle.
I think that, but no, because if you get to the head of the class, it might feel good for a little bit. And if you're the kind of person that you're like, okay, I want people to make me feel good, you have your ego there. That's okay. It's just that there's no more growth to be had. And you need to put yourself in a new environment where you have more growth. Now, I will say this, though. This is with one caveat. I deal with a lot of clients who are in some sort of transition. So they might be in a job, but they want to start their own business in a few years.
Right.
They're retiring or something like that. The one thing I always tell them is, do not just quit your job and jump into the next thing.
Definitely.
There's a lot of learning that you can have, even if you feel like, I've learned this job, I know how to do this job. I've had those jobs before where I'm like, there's nothing else left for me to learn here, and I'm kind of bored. And then what I did was I said, well, I've got at least another 1.5 years on this contract, so what can I do with my time so it's a use for me? Then I would turn it around and I'd say, but my team members don't know this job like I know this job. So now I can share with them different tips and tricks that they don't know. So then my learning wasn't about how to do the job and do it well. It was about how to help somebody else do the job.
So now you're not just like a lake. You're like a river, not a reservoir. You're a river that flows out to other people, because you've come to that place of learning where you realize, maybe I don't have much more to learn here. And now you're just giving out to others and just enriching their lives as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So yes, you can get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm not learning, I'm not growing here. So if you have to stay there, you can switch your perspective a little bit. But if you've done that already and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not getting anything from this, you've got to go somewhere where you're going to grow. You have
Okay.
to, yeah.
So, in the law of environment, we talk about you being in a place where you're mentoring others and you are being mentored because that's how it works. We
Yeah.
have to keep giving as we are receiving, because as we keep giving, we keep growing. But then we have to keep looking up to
Yeah.
others. So, talking about that environment where we have people that are fitting into our needs for growth as well. Instead of just saying, oh, yeah, I am like the big boss in this environment all the time, and all my friends are looking up to me.
Yeah. This before where I've realized I've gotten as much as I can here. There's no other way for me to give back, and I'm not growing, and I've had to make some of those very hard decisions. I've got another one coming up there with a contract that I've been working with forever, but I'm going to have to say no because it's not giving me a return on any investment for me or for others.
Okay.
And that's really when I know that it's time to say no to this particular environment. It's not. I can put up with it if it's not a return for me, if I know it's going to help others.
Right.
But if it's not doing that, if somebody else can do it, I love John's rule. He always talks about delegation. If somebody can do it 80% as good as you, get rid of it.
Right.
That's really good too.
Can you read that about the law of delegation again? I liked it.
Yeah, if someone else can do something 80% as good as you can, then get rid of it. Let them do it.
All right. So business owners, managers, Michelle just said it. Parents.
Yes.
Parents, teachers.
Yes.
Michelle said it, and John says it all the time. And today our hashtag is #GrowOneStep, because we are hoping that by the time you're done listening to us, you have decided on what is one step you're growing by after this broadcast. All right. Michelle's company is Grow by One. So it's one step, grow one step today. #GrowOneStep. If you're just joining us and you want to put #GrowOneStep so we know you're there, that would be amazing. And thank you for putting all those comments in the chat to let us know you're there and that you're learning and growing with us. Michelle, do you agree with the statement that it's rarely too late to make a change?
It is absolutely never too late to make a change. You can do it, and you can do it in any area of your life. I was talking to somebody the other day. She said, I can't remember what it was, but she had said to many of her friends that she was never going to do a certain job ever again. And now she finds that she's doing that sort of a job. And so there was a lot of blame and shame and guilt around doing that. And I said, wait a minute, when you told them you would never do that job back then, you were not lying. Just as you're not lying now. Things change, and it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to do something different. It's okay to allow yourself to feel a different way. It's okay to have a different thought or belief than you've ever had before, or than other people in your realm have ever had. That I'm finding that a lot lately with people who are really trying to grow, is that they're coming to a level of awareness about something, and maybe in their realm is not, right?
Right.
When I decided to start my PhD journey, my whole family was like, why? Why would you do that? Because to them, nobody had ever had a master's ever, or even thought about that. And so to go for a PhD, they're like, why? That doesn't even make any sense to us. And so, here I am trying to go to another class and grow, and nobody in my environment was in it. I think they wanted to support me as a person, but just not in that goal.
Right. Because it's one thing for people to love you. It's another thing for them to understand your vision. And actually know where you are going, to the point where they can support you in that vision. So I'm trying to Sometimes they're trying to stop you, like what our brains do sometimes, right? When you want to do something new, listen, guys, every time you want to do something new, do you ever just jump and do it? Definitely no.
Yeah.
That's because your brain is trying to protect you.
Right.
That new pattern, your brain is not used to it. So your brain is going to be like, ah, stop. We are not used to this. Stop, you know. So you have to consciously, intentionally push yourself to do it.
Yeah.
And when you do it consistently over time, new patterns are formed in your brain. And then when you want to do it, there will be ease because now your brain is saying, yeah, we know about this. Let's do it.
That's what I have found out over time, is that the more you go through this process of evaluating, where am I at, where do I want to go, what's my next step, and doing small growth steps over and over and over, and seeing the momentum that you get from that, then it becomes ingrained in you. And then you recognize there's a point where, and I call it the terror barrier, where fear comes for you big time when you're trying to do something new. And
Right.
previously, I would have been like, no, fear is telling me not to do this, so I just won't do it. But now when that fearful thought comes, or that maybe you can look at it as negative energy, however you want to look at that, but when that comes, I get really excited because I know something cool is coming on the other side.
Wait, Michelle. You get excited when that terror barrier kicks in.
I do, yeah.
Tell us a little more about that, because not everybody is familiar with this terminology and this language that we use sometimes.
Yeah.
Tell us, why do you get excited when you feel that fear within you?
You know what? I'll go back to one example, and this is a really big example in my life, but almost 12 years ago now, I had a stroke. Very young mom. My kids were very little. Just a kind of a freak thing that happened. Took me 2 years to recover. It was an abnormal stroke. There's only 5 of us in the world who have had that kind of stroke.
Wow.
Whole journey. Even it was definitely a journey, but I had doctors tell me that I would never walk again. I was using a walker, that I would always have a speech impediment, and that they tested me, I was at a 10th grade cognitive level. And I remember distinctly when that doctor.
Wait, Michelle, how long ago did this happen?
12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
And this is you talking to me right now?
I know, right?
Okay. All right. Tell us more.
Doctor told us that. And then we were on our way home, and it was, we went to the Cleveland Clinic. So they're world renowned in what they do. And we had about a 6-hour journey home. I fell asleep at one point. I woke up and I heard my husband and my father talking to each other about what they were going to do with me. Now, I was like, I am 30 years old. What are you talking about? What you're going to do with me?
Wow.
And I just said in my head, I said, you know what? No, this is not the life that I'm going to live. And so I kind of hatched this plan, and I took it back to my therapist, and I said, this is what we're going to do. Of course, they had the doctor's report, and they're like, Michelle, the doctor says that, that's not possible. I said, I don't care what he says. We're still doing it anyway. We're just going to do the impossible because we don't have any other choice. I'm not living like that.
Okay, Michelle, in personal development, we always talk about pain being one of the places where we experience the most growth.
Yeah.
If we know how to handle that pain.
Yes.
Michelle, how has this pain influenced who you are today and who you are to your family, your community? I know you. I really want to hear all of it but I know you won't be able to tell all of it. But I am really interested in this story.
I am a completely different person than I was before my stroke. Before my stroke, I was following the, I guess you could say, traditional path in life. I was trying to figure out, what does my family want? What does my community want of me? I was a people pleaser, big time. I don't care who you were. If you were in my life, I was going to try to please you in some way. And I recognize now, looking back on that, that really was the only option that I knew based on my history as a child and the things that happened. Makes perfect sense. So when I got to the stroke, and I literally couldn't do anything for myself or other people, so there's no way to please people.
Right.
Then I said, okay, well, how can I take care of myself? How can I do what I want to do? And how can I maybe serve other people in a different way.
Wow.
So that I made this secret plan. So within about a year and a half of that doctor telling me that, I ran my first 5K. Now, let me clarify, I didn't run. It was more like a turtle stampeding through peanut butter, but I never walked. So I finished.
Yes.
I gave my first keynote address to 600 educators on the power of a positive mindset.
Wow.
Yeah, and then now I'm like this close to being done with my PhD.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Growing, budding, blooming, blossoming out of your pain.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Michelle. I'm just thinking about the trade-offs that because you said you were a people pleaser, because for us to grow, we have to have trade-offs. And John tells us about sometimes we want to give up financial security for potential tomorrow. We want to give up immediate gratification for personal growth. We want to give up maybe the fast life for the good life. We want to give up security for significance. Sometimes we want to give up addition for multiplication. And all of this takes a process sometimes, but it comes from a place where we are like, I can't do this no more.
Yes.
This is the day for a change. Did you have to make trade-offs? Have you had to make trade-offs in your life that have impacted who you are and what you do today?
I would say, especially throughout that process, I was a people pleaser before, and now I won't say I just please myself, because that's not it. But my overall goal is really impact. So how many people can I impact? How many people can I get to think a little bit differently, to check in, to grow in their awareness, to really understand the power that they have inside? That is my goal in life. I could not do that when I was trying to please my husband and my children and my mother-in-law and my boss. So my purpose is much bigger now. And the trade-off that I had to make in that is that, guess what? My husband, my children, my mother-in-law, my boss, they might not be so happy with me all the time. That's okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. And not that I'm trying to make them unhappy. It's just like things like this where, we're on a Sunday afternoon here where I'm at. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Michigan, which doesn't happen very often in April. So it's a trade-off to be here, but it's very worth it for me. There's always going to be a return on that investment. So when I go after my calling, then they're gonna get the best of me anyway.
Right. I was speaking with a couple of ladies. They had a retreat, and they invited me to come just talk with them. And I was telling them the greatest investment you can invest in your family is to invest in yourself first.
Yes.
Grow yourself, build yourself. I told them I'm married now. It's 20 years. So if I'm saying this with this level of confidence, you can be sure I probably know what I'm talking about. Invest in yourself, grow yourself, because then you just become the change agent for everything around you, and you influence everything around you in such a positive way. I know that we've been listening because Michelle is really good, and we haven't had time to think about our questions. All right. I'm going to give you guys a pause. Listen. What is your question? Let me just tell you. Hint, we don't have more than 10 minutes. We just have about 10 minutes. So if you're waiting for Michelle to answer your questions, this is the time. I'm going to give us a couple of minutes to ask those questions when we come back. Michelle has been throwing a lot of gems. We hope you've been writing your notes. Our hashtag for today is #grow1step. What is that one step you are growing after now? And if you're not really sure, Michelle's links and everything is going to be in the chat, and I am here. We can have that conversation as well. We will be right back.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives, one leader at a time.
So we've heard that curiosity is a willing, a proud, and eager confession of ignorance, and it is also said that research is formalized curiosity.
Yeah.
How does this impact our businesses and who we are and the life that we, our dream lives?
Yeah.
Where does
It's
curiosity
huge.
come in, Michelle?
Yeah, so I always go back to what John Maxwell says. He says you need to promote yourself from being an expert to a learner.
Okay. Well, wait. You
Yeah,
mean it is a promotion?
it is a promotion. Absolutely. Expert to learner. You know, when you become an expert at something, good for you, but that you're at the head of the class that way, right? That's great. But what else are you learning? So now you need to go into another learning phase so that you can continue to grow. So let's say you're the top boss, you've learned everything you can about this job, you're doing things wonderfully, you're coaching and mentoring your people, everybody's growing, good, but they can only grow up to the level that you are at. So if you're not continuously going after something new, then they can't learn something new. And
Right.
I'll give you a great example as a parenting example. So my children always have a skill that they're learning at a chore of some kind, right? And so when they get done with their chore, I say, okay, great. Now you know how to wash the dishes. You know how to do your laundry. You know how to take out the garbage. When are you moving out? I've done this since they were like 2. And of course,
Right.
they're, Mom, I can't move out yet. I need to know X, Y, and Z. Okay. All right. So what is the next thing that you're going to learn? Now, there's some subtle hints in here that you're not staying in my house, but it's not so much for me or my children, maybe more for my husband to help him understand these children are leaving. They're not staying here with us, right? But it's also to help them understand this is how much you already know in your life, how awesome you are.
Right.
Now, what is the next thing that you want to learn? I want them to hear that dozens and dozens and dozens of times before they move out of my house. It's ingrained in them.
And we know that we can only grow to the level and quality of questions that we ask.
Yes.
Because those questions, they're evidence of that curiosity that we have, and that shows that we are actually growing. Because if we find ourselves answering more questions at any season in life than the number of questions we're asking, then we probably are not growing during that season of life. So, Michelle, my question is, how does one develop the skill of asking the right questions so we can have the right answers?
Yeah, so I want to just clarify the right questions, right answers. You never know what the right questions or the right answers are. The quicker you can get out of understanding that there is no right answer and there's no right question, the more curious you will be in life. So the kicker here is really that you want to just be asking questions. As you ask more and more and more questions, that's why I love doing this.
So it's about just being a curious person.
Exactly. When you do this right there, it has automatic questions built into it.
And you know what, Michelle? I am so curious to know everything that's in there right now. So
I'll do a training or something on that. Yeah.
So we have a question from Hedrin. She says, how do you bridge the gap of not being a people pleaser to creating a positive impact with others?
Wow, that's a big question. And I'll be honest, we could spend a few hours on that. I think if I were to really boil it down, I would ask, what is going to be the return on your investment of time and energy and resources?
Okay.
So for example, I've got teenagers. If I go out there right now and I make dinner or I do the dishes, first of all, they can do that 80% as well.
Right.
If I go do that, which I could, there's nothing wrong with that. However, I could be here with you. And so where is the highest amount of return? If I do their job that they could do, but I'm not doing it here, sure, they get a little bit of me, but you guys don't get any of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm looking at how am I going to spend my time, this is an easy yes for me because here's the highest return on my investment of time.
Right, right.
So looking at it that way, it kind of takes a little bit of the emotion out of it, because when you're in a people-pleasing state, there's a lot of emotions that are wrapped up in that. There's just a lot when you're dealing with other people. And so just ask yourself, who's going to get the most benefit from this? And there needs to be a return for you.
Right, right.
That's huge. So for me, I know in my business, I track all of the speaking engagements that I'm on, and I know that this is going to add, go in my dashboard this at the end of the week, right? So I'm tracking that as well, but I don't track whether I do dishes or not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, right. Wow, Michelle, we just have a couple of minutes, about 3 or so. You've been talking about giving back and looking at the greatest return on investment, like impacting the most people in life. That's like having an abundance mindset and being a go-giver instead of being a go-getter kind of mindset. How do we transition from I am not able to do it, I can't do it, I can't. Can I? How can I? How can we transition, Michelle?
I think the biggest thing is that you need a system or a process that's going to help you. So you're either going to need something like my little book, right, that helps you walk through it, and or also a group that's going to help you to stick to that process. So to be able to show up with a group or at least one-to-one with somebody every week and say, this is what I'm doing to grow, and then have that person ask you some questions and go, oh yeah, okay, I could do this and this, and then go back and try new things. And then when you fail, coming back and saying, I tried this, and that person say, oh my gosh, yes, but you did so much better at that than you would have before. Right. So being in that relationship with someone who can help you see yourself at the highest light.
Michelle, where do we find those people? Because some people that say, I don't have them. They don't exist. Where do we find them?
Well, you're looking at two people on the screen right now. Reach out to us. If you don't know anybody else, reach out to us. But guaranteed, if you're asking yourself that question, there is somebody else in your life who is also asking themselves that question. You need to find that person and say, let's jump on a Zoom or on a phone call or something and just talk about what's happening in life and how are we going to grow.
Okay, Michelle, this time runs by fast. Yes. When we have somebody like you in the studio, and there is so much more we could talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is just so much time that we have. And your kids are waiting for you. The weather is really fine outside in Michigan. And we must just be thankful and grateful that you gave us this time. We've been talking, here you grow again, reach your potential. Michelle, what would be your last words to our audiences?
Just do it. Whatever is in your heart, because many of you are watching this today and you have something that's on your heart and you came here for a reason, to get inspired or to be encouraged or to have a question answered. Whatever is on your heart, just do it. One step. So if you are a people pleaser, the next step is going to be to ask yourself, what have I done today to please myself and to serve others in a non-people pleasing way? And if you don't find anything, that's okay, because now you can set your intention for tomorrow to do one thing where you can serve somebody else without making them happy. So whatever your one thing is that you came here with today, just start small steps and start to bring that into your life.
If you've never been evaluating your growth, this is the time to take that one step. If you're the kind of person that has been ungrateful and forgiving, this is the time to take that one step.
If you don't enjoy being outside, perhaps that's your one thing. But you might have a listener that's joining us tonight for the very first time. Celebrate, congratulate yourself for taking an hour out of your time to come and learn something new. Celebrate that. That's huge.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you think you can be more, the Leaders World is the place for you. If you think you can give more to your community and you just want to know how to get to that next level, the Leaders World is the place for you. We've had Michelle with us, and this is all the time we have. We are going to thank you to Michelle. If you're still watching, can you just put thank you to Michelle? We're going to put her information in the chat, and you will be hearing from Michelle, her podcast. You can listen to Michelle every day. And Michelle, thank you so much for
My
hanging
pleasure.
out with us over here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the day. We must say goodbye. Sometimes goodbyes are hard, especially when we have somebody as good as Michelle. But this is all the time we have, and we are saying thank you so much for choosing this time to hang out with us. Goodbye.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives, one leader at a time.